media. Jeremy, you want to start us off?
Good morning, Ned. Literally 2 minutes before you walked in here, news broke that the team is closing in on a deal to sign a winger from Gremio, Alexander Aravena. It looks like it's going to be a loan with a buy option. Just how did this deal come together? And also, is this something that the team is also looking to do more in the future, using the loan market instead of just still looking for permanence?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, just thanks for everyone being here. I think it's incredible to see how many people are in the room. Hopefully sharing the same excitement as we start out 2026 and our home opener this weekend. So I always say it's great to be back. Great to have real games again and see, an entire stadium full. So excited about that. I'm not going to comment on other teams' players. I would just say we're in position to try and finalize and acquire another attacking piece, and hopefully very soon. Obviously, I think when you look at trying to round out the rest of the roster, the two positions, both for us as attacking piece winger and a center midfield position as well, where we need to build out and strengthen that position. We actually had a deal in place last week. That deal fell apart in a way that I've not seen in my time at the club, but those things do happen. So we will continue to assess how to strengthen that position, and hopefully we'll have an attacking piece here added very soon.
Anyone? Aaron?
Can you just comment on the unique way of the way the deal went down at all, or?
I'm not going to get into details. I would just say it didn't fall apart from our doing. But these things happen. I also think we've got to be somewhat understanding that different clubs, different leagues dealing with different rules. Those things can happen and happen at the 25th hour. Like I said, we've got to pivot and look to continue to strengthen. But I feel good about the pieces that we have, the players that we do have here, the players that we're going to be adding, and then also just the ability of where we'll be at in terms of funds, international roster slots. I think we're in a strong position to be strong here at the beginning of the season and get stronger as the season goes in a really unique year in MLS.
Hey, Ned, last time we talked, Phil had mentioned with the center midfield that there are some T2 players he was interested in, that there is potential to bring up. And so I just want to know if you guys are still looking at T2 and the option of bringing players up, or more bringing somebody new in.
Yeah, we had a number of both academy players and MLS Next Pro players with us in preseason, which I always think is great. Phil's been a huge supporter of playing young players and giving young players the opportunity, which has been great to see and has continued our progression in the development space as well. And I think we drafted as well in the center and midfield position. Our top pick obviously has had an injury in preseason, so we haven't been able to assess him around our first team group. But we drafted in that position. And then I think coming out of camp, we felt like that there was probably two standout, younger players that were a little bit closer to being in discussion for potential short-term call-ups or, further involvement in first-team trainings on a regular basis. Those players for us were Noah Santos, who played last year in Next Pro, and Eric Izoita, who had played a number of games last year in MLS Next Pro as well. So I think you've always got to find that balance, right, of what makes most sense. I go back to the Gage Guerra last season, who had a good preseason, but felt strongly at the time that the right decision for him for the long term was to get him as many games as we possibly could early on in the season, help his development, get him confident in scoring goals, and then look to, further supplement the first team when it made sense for everyone. So we'll continue to look at a number of those scenarios with a few different players, but the good news is we do have players that we're speaking about in that capacity.
Cole Bassett, obviously a very desirable player across MLS. I'm sure there was more suitors than just you guys. When did it become an opportunity that he was available from Colorado, and how soon did you guys pounce on that opportunity?
Well, I think it became an opportunity first when Phil got the idea in his mind early in the offseason. And even as we made the trade of David Ajala, which was more contract related than anything, because he's a great player. For us, the biggest goal of the offseason was to acquire a really, really good starting center midfield player in MLS that had good experience but was still at a good age. And that list was very small. It's not easy to go and get other good players in this league. I think many teams have seen that now with the new trade for financial consideration. But Cole was one that made a ton of sense for us in terms of the way that we wanted to play. It didn't need to be a like for like in terms of the positional fit for us. Someone that is super ambitious, wants to win, really, really hungry. And I think he's been a great addition so far for our group in preseason. I know Phil's really excited to have him, as is the rest of the staff.
Ned, a lot of your work happens in the offseason, throughout the season as well, but then rubber meets the road. You get to see the work that you put in the roster, take the field, and play in games. What excites you most about the team you've compiled thus far?
Yeah, I think, look, I look at a number of pieces that we added along the back line, over the last 12 to 18 months with some young players. I'm looking at a guy in Jimmer Forey. I think he can be a top left back in this league after his first season in MLS. We speak about Finn Sermon. He can be a top center back in this league, after our first full season in MLS. We've now added Alex Bonatig into the group, who had a strong preseason for us. So I look along that back line, and I like a lot of the players that we've added, and they're at really good ages as well. So that's one thing I think that excites me, and one evolution I think we've seen with our group, over the last season. And then Christopher Valdo, to be honest with you. I think he had a really, really bright preseason throughout. He's someone that has, high expectations of himself, as do we. I think when both have that, club and player, that's sometimes when you can find that breakout player and that really, really exciting player in MLS. Joined us last season. I thought had a really good impact early for us, but a full preseason, getting to know teammates, building those relationships. There's going to be a lot put on his shoulders this season. He's ready for that as well.
In the room? Adam?
You've still got a U22 and a full DP slot. How do you kind of use those in your back pocket as you approach the season? Do you kind of want to see what's on the table before you approach the summer to use those?
Yeah, well, we'll end up electing the 2DP 4U22 model. So we'll have one open U22 slot. As we've looked at the center midfield position, some of it, like I said, was wanting to get that domestic MLS proven player in. Cole happened to be a U22 player for the season, which made the deal even more intriguing for us. And now as we look to build things out, we've looked at both U22 options and experienced center midfield options. I do feel that we are kind of going through and have reached the end of that first cycle of our U22 players. When you speak about Santi Moreno, Juan Mascara, Anthony, David Ajala, we've had 4 or 5 of these players in. They've all done very well for us. They've all grown up. They're 23, 24, 25. They've played important roles for the team. I feel like we're really starting that next cycle of when to bring in some younger players. And so right now we've got that slot. We can use it when it makes most sense. Although I would say I probably lean towards a more experienced player right now for the group as we start the season.
Looking ahead, obviously this is the last season with this calendar set up. When, if at all, does kind of the mindset or anything change as it relates to the MLS calendar switch and how you go about acquiring players and going through that process?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. In a sporting position, especially, I do think that there'll be some challenges, and obviously the newness of the shift as well on the business side. So certainly I'm sensitive to that. But on the sporting side, when you look at trying to align the transfer windows, and even now, waiting for some of these European windows and South American windows to potentially close or get closer to the end, is when a lot of these deals get done, because different players and agents and clubs are positioning through the transfer windows. I think it's challenging at times. You look at this offseason and people will look at the Ayala trade a little bit in terms of us bringing that back and saying, well, why did you trade a good player? Well, we've passed on 3, substantial offers for really, really important players to our group this offseason because there is a focus on winning. I do think as these transfer windows align more and the start of our season falls in line with the start of the season, a lot of these big leagues, those things can probably be better assessed, both sporting and financial. But we've now reached a place, I think, where every single window we go through, we are assessing, multi-million-dollar offers for really good players within our team. So that's been a challenge, I think, not just for us, for other teams in MLS as well, in terms of how to try to keep together a strong core.
Any last questions in the room? Okay, we will wrap it there. Thanks for the time, Ned. We'll have head coach Phil Neville up next.
Thanks a lot.